I have just been completely trounced by Rational Roundtable. So why am I smiling? First, I'd like to address the substance of your video and just say, yeah, you're right on a lot of the things in your video. And the things that you're wrong on in your video are nitpicky at best and have nothing to do with the fact that my arguments in my video fell flatter than Callista Flockhart's chest in relation to the topic at hand. I'd also like to thank you because without the mental cudgeling that I received from you, I would not have realized that I was profoundly confused about the nature of what set off the logical alarm bells in my head while watching your video, Why Assume God? In this video, I will attempt to show why I was confused and what the real problem was in my own arbitrary way. But before I do that, I'd like to add a personal note to Rational Roundtable. I'd like to say, again, thank you, but for responding. And I didn't mean to be insulting in my original response video. You're one of my favorite Christian apologists here on YouTube, along with Veritas48 and Together for Peace. And I feel I must apologize for the tone that I took in my video. I will endeavor to be more sensitive to the potential reactions of the people I respond to from this point forward. And now, why I'm smiling. You successfully demonstrate an arbitrary decision by arbitrarily choosing to eat the dark chocolate based on your individual preference, with a singular wit, I might add, based on the third definition of arbitrary in Merriam-Webster, letter A, which is
based on or determined by individual preference or convenience rather than by necessity or the intrinsic value of something, an arbitrary standard.
This is where I had an epiphany. Because I was using the third definition of arbitrary, letter B, which is existing or coming about seemingly at random or by chance or as a capricious, unreasonable act of will. I actually didn't catch it before, but you use the B definition of arbitrary in the same way that I do when you talk about assumption and the logical state of the universe in your video, Why Assuming God.
We have to assume that the laws of physics are consistent, that the universe is indeed logical. If this is not the case, then science completely breaks down. Without logic, we cannot predict anything because nothing will be consistent. Just because you drop something and it falls to the ground one time, if the universe is not logical, then if we drop it a second time, it may or may not fall. It becomes arbitrary, which becomes a key point in why I think that the source of the universe is a living thing as opposed to an unliving force.
Now here's where it gets interesting. You swap that definition and sense of arbitrary with the preferential definition of and sense of arbitrary that you assert in your video by choosing the dark chocolate.
Now, the reason I think a conscious entity is the case is because, as far as I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in nature, nothing is arbitrary. You never see planets suddenly change their course for no apparent reason. Nature does not do arbitrary things. However, living beings can. I can, for no apparent reason, take this bottle of manna and chuck it out the window. Or I can hold on.
The reason you assume nature does not do arbitrary things is because we do appear to live in a logical universe where nature does not do arbitrary things. The reason you assume that living beings can do arbitrary things is because they're capable of having a preference for something and can arbitrarily choose one thing over another. These two definitions of arbitrary are obviously not the same or interchangeable. The B definition and sense of arbitrary refers to the random nature of an event. The A definition and sense of arbitrary refers to a preferential choice. This is the swap and connection between two different definitions of arbitrary, and it's also the thing that set off alarm bells in my head that prompted me to make the video. My mistake was assuming that the alarm bells went off because I assumed you were using the B definition and sense of arbitrary in relation to living things, which I construed as an argument for free will. But wait, it gets better. A few seconds later, you fuse the two definitions, sliding B under A when you say,
For best as we can tell, other sentient beings have the ability to make arbitrary decisions. And the expansion of space-time had to have been an arbitrary decision because any kind of naturalistic process would have to use time to function. In order for cause and effect to take place, you cannot do that without time.
Now, whether this was intentional or not doesn't really matter. What it boils down to is the fact that your argument in Why Assume God is founded on a logical fallacy called equivocation. Let me know what you think.
I like you.